welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with MovieMaker Magazine. I'm Tim Molloy, and I'm here with Nir Berger with the new film, Touch. Let's start with a clip. So, Nir, can you start by just introducing the film for people who may not know what it's about? Just giving a quick synopsis.
Sure. It's a short, dark comedy about a teenage troll who's very shy and self-conscious, and she finds for the first time in her life she meets someone she's interested in, who's another internet troll, and this kind of weird romance starts between them, completely silently, all through text messages.
Yeah, it's a really incredible piece of filmmaking.
Thank you so much.
I was very impressed by how much you made me empathize with an internet troll. What's your experience been with internet trolls, if you've had any?
Not really. I feel like it's the complete opposite of me, which is always I feel the most fun to write. I always struggle to understand why people waste so much time and energy, and then I thought, wait, that's if I don't understand it, then it must be fascinating in its own way. And I feel it's like I'm always kind of drawn to people who can't properly express themselves, and I felt like trollism is kind of it's a way of that. It's a form of that.
Yeah, there's almost like this hazing of the entire world where she doesn't trust anyone, and then the one person who sort of goes along with her, she really latches onto.
Yeah, which I feel is kind of might be a common experience for teens growing up right now.
Yeah. And then she ends up meeting somebody completely different than she ever expected to meet and sort of has her eyes open. Can you talk about that element of the film and why you brought it in?
Sure. So basically, what happens is the guy she meets, her name is Adele. The guy's name is Uri, and he asks for a clear picture because she's so self-conscious. She doesn't have really clear pictures, so he asks for one, and she just looks for one of a pretty girl who might appear to be her. And the girl she finds is this Syrian girl called Rima, and she lives in Aleppo. So they kind of connect, and Rima sort of becomes kind of her mentor, Cyrano kind of character, unexpectedly. And all the time, Adele completely ignores all the crazy stuff that's going on where Rima is living, which first I found kind of grotesque and hilarious in its own sad way, but because I feel this is a film about empathy and learning to see others, which I feel is both a syndrome, the lack thereof is both a syndrome of this time and digital age, and also of just being a teenager in any time. So her learning to see, even in a small way, that someone's going through a difficult time as well, that's like huge for her in this movie.
Yeah. What backstory did you come up with for Adele to explain how she's so, I guess, self-absorbed is the way to put it? I mean, she really feels sorry for herself and doesn't seem to realize that there is anything happening in Syria until the moment she discovers it.
Yeah, I feel I don't know, like I don't have like a proper character page. I don't usually do that when I write. So I just thought of myself as a very self-absorbed teen. Although I was very different from Adele, I was also, like, I feel in ways similar, very, very self-absorbed. I don't remember like reading a newspaper properly until I was like 18, because you just don't think about that stuff. You think about what's going on in your own life. And also, like, I think part of the reason why I chose Syria for this is because I felt living in Israel, it's so weird how little we know of what's going on in our own, with our neighbors, basically. There's very little coverage. It's surprising, honestly, how little coverage there was and is of the Syrian civil war. So I thought that's a good test case of lack of empathy, because in a way, none of us in Israel is much better than Adele in that sense. We don't really know much more about what's going on or do anything about it.
Yeah, I think it's sort of similar in the United States, where people aren't really up on what's happening in Syria, or what has happened in Syria, which is horrific. I like how you sort of stealth introduced it into this, you know, I don't want to say cute, but sort of like fun, dark comedy. I mean, it's not, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a serious documentary style movie, but then you do manage to sort of sneak in a message. And I always really like when people can Trojan horse in some thoughtfulness on top of another story. How did you find the great comic tone of this, where you never tell us when to laugh, there's never a joke, but it's really funny?
So it's also horrifying. I'm glad that you found it to be that, because it's also horrifying to make a film like that. Because I feel like, especially when you're making anything that's supposed to be, that has a comedic element, there's that phase, like it makes you laugh when you write it, and then there's a long stretch of time where it's not funny anymore. But you have to count on that feeling that you remember it's funny, but you don't feel it's funny. So you're really hoping for it to go back to being funny again at the end once everything is done, because it has to be so accurate with timing and stuff like that. So I'm really grateful that you felt that. I feel like there's just inherent comedy in that tension between what we write and what we feel. And I think that this movie is very much what we all tried to accomplish in making it, is to capture that moment where you obviously feel something very, very dark and deep, but all you can put on the phone is like a laugh emoji.
What's the biggest challenge you faced in making the movie?
It was really a series of challenges, because I think all the while, like all the creative team, like my producer and photographer, we had to make up how to do this kind of thing, because it's a silent film, and in a way we discovered it's like an even like Chaplin age silent film, because you actually see a text all over the screen, which is kind of like those splash text that there used to be, and then an expression, and then again. So we sort of had to make up this language also in editing of how to do that. But I feel like specifically maybe casting for a completely silent film was weird, because we brought in a series of actors, and me and my producer and my casting director, and at first we asked them to read out the text as though it was a conversation. But then we realized, after having brought in like dozens of actresses, that we learned absolutely nothing from that, because that's not what the film is going to be. And then we had to bring back everyone, and we just did a completely silent audition, where we texted with them the text, and we just filmed their responses and looked at what's going on their faces. And a lot of great actresses, we didn't feel what's going on in their heads. And it took like a really, the right actress, Neta, who just, once she read our texts, you could see so much going on her face, and like a whole story was being told. And then we knew, but it took a lot of trial and error to get there.
Did you have to create fake social accounts for all of these people in order to have these texts go back and forth? And did you have to, like, how did you do it? Did you set them up with phones? Did you create fake identities?
Yeah, it's kind of a mix of fake accounts and post-production, which we did in pre-production. Like we had an After Effects guy go over these real accounts to change things. And basically Neta was reacting to a pre-recorded film of the texting, and her screen was touch locked. And she was just faking the thumb move. She memorized the thumb movements of her own texting to hit all the timings, which was insane. It was really impressive to watch, and also created this awkward moment where often she would like just sit there, and she asked, when do we cut? Because this has finished like a minute ago, and I'm just sitting here. We just stared at her reacting to a phone.
Wow.
Yeah, really weird. Weird to film. Weird way to film.
How did you figure out how kids her age talk, and how they type? Because you're not just figuring out like the subculture of trolls, you're also figuring out the subculture of people who are about like 15, 16.
Yeah, and we gave teens, we had teen advice, like to go over the script beforehand and tell us what feels natural and what doesn't, and how would you say this? And I did some research online, of course, and read just like weird Google searches of teen texting, which I would never want anyone to look at my like Google search history from that time. Just reading screenshots that happened to be online. And of course, the actors, both Neta and Itamar, who were that age, they were 17 when we filmed, also gave their input. So we tried to hit as close to home. I honestly have no idea. I hope it feels natural, but we did our best.
This is a bit of a spoiler for people who haven't seen it, so I'll try to keep it as neutral as possible, but where do you see the central characters' relationship going after this movie? Do you think they'll learn to communicate with vocalized words?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. I doubt it, honestly. I wish they could, but I think it's going to be a long process, and I doubt the first relationship they get into will accomplish that. I think most of the time they'll be sitting around texting each other and finding funny memes and sending them to each other, which I also think is sweet. It's not that much worse than a lot of teen relationships, I guess. I doubt they'll even kiss, honestly.
Uh,
Sorry.
where do you think Netta will be in, 10 years? Well, I mean, the character. Where do you think she'll be in 10 years, 15 years? Coding?
Wow, I hope not. I do think she'll grow out of it. One of the things that was important to all of us in making the film is not to be too judgmental of the way teens are right now, because I do feel on some deeper level, they're both not that different from us as adults, and not that different from teens at any other time, because I feel they're just like human. They're in that phase in their lives where all they see is themselves, and they'll grow out of it. And I feel like as humankind will grow out of this phase of, I don't know, kind of arrested development of teenagehood that we're all in, due to constantly being on our phones. I do hope we'll all grow out of it, and therefore I do hope Adele grows out of it as well.
I know you've done a lot of television, you've done a lot of web series. What are you working on now?
So I have a dramedy series that I co-created with a friend at Tara, and it's coming up actually this April on Khan, which is the public broadcaster in Israel. So we're very excited about that. And I'm also working on a few new series. One of them is kind of in the worlds of touch as well, because that's something I'm just obsessed with, this kind of digital communication. So yeah, mostly that.
Great. Well, Nir Berger, huge thrill to get to talk to you. I mean, you always, I think it's in Catcher in the Rye where he says you read a good book and then you just immediately want to have a conversation with the author. And I feel like I'm getting to do that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say, this is, of course, I am not taking, it sounds like I'm taking all the credit for this film. So many very talented people worked on this film and gave everything. And much more responsible for how good or bad it is, but hopefully good. So thank everyone for working on film, and thank you for this conversation, really.
Thank you.